Okay. We do have a quorum. It is, a little after 6 o'clock right now. I'm going to go ahead and call this evening's meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals for the City of Florence to order. First item on the this evening's agenda is approval of the minutes from meeting held February the 24th, 2022. That has been submitted to the board. Are there any changes or amendments to the minutes from members of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying A or nay.
Aye.
All right. The ayes have it. The motion carries. The minutes are approved. Next item on this evening's agenda is BZA 2021-02. And again, that's BZA 2022-02. Excuse me. Okay, this is for a request for a variance from size requirements for a freestanding sign to be located at 2720 South Irby Street in the CA zoning district, shown as tax map number 00151011016. And let me read the applicants. Okay, and this is dated March 24th, 2022, appeal number BZA 2022-02, variance request for a variance from the size requirements for a freestanding sign in table 5-17.1B, and locations at 2720 South Irby Street, tax number 00151-01-016, and the owner of the record is South Florence Baptist Church. The applicant is a Susan Beeler, yes ma'am, Beeler with Signs Limited, and the zoning district is Campus, CA. Okay, the board will now hear from city staff.
Good evening, thank you. Yes, South Florence Baptist Church is requesting a variance from the sign area requirements of the ordinance in order to install a new monument sign in front of their church. They're located on South Irby Street, just south of Freedom Boulevard, across from the Millstone subdivision. This is a closer up shot of it, and it is on South Irby Street, which is a 4-lane road at this point. And they are zoned campus, which is the designation that is for large developments, institutional developments such as churches, schools, hospitals, etc. And directly to its north is Casey Company, and that's all zoned commercial general. Across the street is Zone Activity Center, which is another commercial designation, and then the rest of it around it is still in the county. The future land use map designates it as public and institutional in keeping with its use as a church, and commercial auto urban to the north of it. This is the proposed sign. The area of signage would be about roughly 91 square feet of the total signage area, with an overall height of 20 feet. According to the table 517.21B in the ordinance, in the campus district, they're permitted one freestanding sign, but it can only have an area of 32 square feet. So this is about 3 times that size. These are pictures of the existing sign and of the church itself. Currently, they have two freestanding signs. The South Florence Baptist Church sign measures out roughly at about 120 square feet if you were to basically put a panel right behind the crosses there. And then the smaller sign for the daycare is roughly 7 square feet. So they're actually dropping down total from 2 signs down to 1, which is the preferred, what's approved by the ordinance, and then going down from roughly 127 square feet to 91. The new sign, though, will be lit and have an electronic LED board on it. But as you can see, this portion of South Irby Street, there are, I don't know why there's 2 copies of the same picture there. I did not even catch that till now. But across the street is basically well buffered, and then it goes into a single-family neighborhood, and there's apartments back in there as well. Directly to the north of it, the picture in the lower left is Casey, which is a, I think it's a trucking company.
Heating and air conditioning.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. So the following information was submitted by the applicant, that the church property is zoned campus, but it abuts commercial zone properties where larger signage is allowed throughout the current bylaw, and the property is in a 45-mile-an-hour zone with 4 lanes. And the church does include the on-site daycare center. Most of the property around it is zoned commercial, and in that zoning district, the maximum signage area for the commercial general is 160 square feet. So this is still well below what it would be allowed if it was zoned general commercial. The church would like the opportunity to install new modern signage with the ability to promote church events, messaging regarding its on-premise daycare center, and community messaging. But due to the current maximum size restriction, that can't be done. The sign would be too small and would not fit into the current surroundings. So people would miss it as they go by. And the property is set in a commercial setting with large signage and businesses in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. So by modernizing their existing signage and increasing the square footage, that will improve wayfinding to the church and daycare and project a positive image to the surrounding properties where it's placed. And the new proposed sign will fit in with the surrounding signage, and that's all from the applicant. As far as the variance conditions, staff feels that the lot is in the middle of a commercial area on a busy 4-lane arterial road. Limiting the church to 32 square feet results in signage that is indistinguishable amongst the other signage in the vicinity. And the requested area is not significantly different from the existing sign area, but does include the animated sign. The intent of the size limit in campus districts in the ordinance is to prevent the installation of a sign that overwhelms the area and to protect the character of adjacent residential areas. But that is not the risk in this situation. And granting the variance would enable the removal of one of the 2 freestanding signs, so would bring the church into compliance with the ordinance regarding the number of signs. The church is located on a 4-acre parcel on a 4-lane arterial street amongst other large commercial uses. And other properties in the vicinity are zoned commercial as well, which does permit larger signs. Limiting the church to the 32 square foot as required, it would be overwhelmed by surrounding signage and swallowed up by, not being very significant with the size of the parcel itself, which would defeat its purpose to identify the church and the daycare center. And allowing a sign in keeping with the others will provide appropriate identification of the church. And again, it does decrease the total number of signage. So that concludes staff's report.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the board for the city staff at this time?
Yes. The existing sign far exceeds the ordinance as well. Did the zoning change at some point?
It did. That sign's been there for a long time.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I might just add to give, I guess, a little bit of history. When we adopted the Unified Development Code, we created this new district, a campus district. And in applying the campus zoning, we applied it to many of the churches and schools and things of that nature, universities within our city. And in doing so, some of those are embedded in commercial areas, some of those are embedded in residential areas. You know, as we all know, we have churches and schools in our neighborhoods. And the sign code didn't really change from the old code. So I think the sign code and things like this case bring to light the need for us to update that portion of the Unified Development Code. I think that signage, if it's embedded in a residential neighborhood, should very much follow that 32 square foot. It should be smaller and more appropriate to scale. But when campuses, school campuses are large and or in commercially zoned areas, I think they could then take on more of the character of that area. I think that'll be moving forward how that code would get rewritten. So I think this is a product of the Unified Development Code, and that sign code not getting touched as part of that from the old code, and it just didn't adapt over very well.
And I think under the old zoning that it was zoned commercial.
Yeah, additional question. The adjacent commercial properties, some of those have much larger signs. Is that correct?
Right.
And I believe on the next intersection up, there's billboards
Yes.
on Irby. I mean,
A lot
so-
of the property around it is still in the county as well, and not under the city's code.
Okay, because the case next door, I mean, their sign appears to be the size of a large billboard.
Yeah.
So,
Is that in the county?
I think it's in the city, but I think that's a fairly recent annexation.
okay, thank
Yes, Ms. Elena. Currently, right now, you said it was zoned. I heard two different things. I'm sorry.
It's zoned campus.
So that's CA?
Yes.
Okay, I heard a PAC. Okay, so CA is zone campus, CA, and the general business, they have, you said it previously was a,
It looks like it was zoned a general business prior to 2018, when we
and
adopted
which
the new.
it was allowed at that point.
That's
the
correct,
signage,
yes.
or the new signage proposal, or the currently what they have.
Currently what they have.
Currently what they have, but it still wouldn't fall in the guidelines of their new sign, even back in the code for 2018.
Well, the zoning was changed in 2018, and that's when the different sign size came into play. Because prior to that, it would have been allowed a 160 square foot sign.
Which it is 190, what is it?
120,
That's what it is currently right now.
Correct,
And
yes.
what they proposed is
90,
90. Okay, so it falls well within there.
absolutely.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, thank
and it's
you.
getting smaller.
Gotcha. Thank you, Ms. Lyon. Oh, I'm so sorry. One more thing, and also, if this proposal, it will reduce it down to one sign, as
That's
you
correct,
mentioned,
yes.
and the freestanding
Yeah,
sign
they'll be able
be
to,
removed.
they'll be able to advertise for the daycare center on this sign instead of needing a separate wayfinding sign for it.
Thank you.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
You have anybody, a camp set up for it?
I haven't, no, nobody's contacted me about it, and we did send letters out.
And so, to make clear, he asked if there was any objections or why y'all had the notification out. Were there
Right,
any
no, I never heard
calls?
from anybody.
Okay, well, is that what you?
Yeah, that's what.
Okay, so there was no objection, no complaints, nobody's filed.
Nope.
All right. Thank you.
Take a motion.
Well, we gotta let them, so, thank you so very much. All right, there, the board will now hear from the applicant, which Miss Susan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now you're with Signs Unlimited?
I'm with Signs Limited.
Okay. Come on up, we'll swear you in and let's see. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and swear you in. Do you promise the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. You may continue with your presentation.
Okay, my name is Susan Beeler, and I'm with Signs Limited of Lake City. And we're looking to install this new signage for South Florence Baptist Church. It would be a reduction in size of what they currently have, and it would be a more modernized sign and would fit within the community would be able to advertise their daycare center more than what is out there right now, because they have a very small wayfinding sign right now. I think it would make an impact on the community to get the message out. Due to the current maximum size restriction, the messaging can't be done, as the sign would be too small and would not fit into the current surroundings. The hardship would impact the property negatively with the current signage. So we're increasing the square footage to the proposed 91 square feet will improve the wayfinding to the church, daycare, and et cetera, and project a positive image to the surrounding properties where it's placed. The new proposed plan will fit in with the surrounding signage. We're asking for relief of the variance for us to be able to move forward with the installation of the new sign.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Now, is there any, ma'am, okay, is there any other questions from the board for the applicant? Yes, ma'am. If you come up, just in case they had any questions.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you, ma'am. Is there any questions for the applicant? No questions? Okay. All right, thank you so very much, ma'am. Okay. All right, there'd be no more questions. The chair will now entertain a motion to either approve or deny the variance request from members of the board.
Chairman, I'll like to make a motion. Okay. I move that we grant the request for variance based upon the following findings of fact. That a variance from the terms of the Unified Development Ordinance will not be contrary to public interest when, because of special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions will, in this individual case, result in an unnecessary hardship, in that the lot is in the middle of a commercial area on a busy 4-lane arterial road. Limiting the church to 32 square feet results in signage that is indistinguishable amongst other signage in the vicinity. The requested area is not significantly different from the existing sign area, but it does include an LED animated sign. That the spirit of the Unified Development Ordinance will be observed, public safety and welfare secured, and substantial justice done, because the intent of the sign's limit on the campus districts in the ordinance is to prevent the installation of a sign that overwhelms an area and to protect the character of adjacent residential areas. That is not a risk in this individual case. Additionally, granting the variance enables the removal of one of 2 freestanding signs, bringing the church into compliance with the ordinance regarding the total number of signs. 3, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property, namely that the church is located on a large parcel on a 4-lane arterial street amongst other large commercial uses. 4, that these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity, in that the other properties in the vicinity are zoned commercial general, which allows much larger signage along the South Irby Street corridor. 5, that because of these conditions, the application of the Unified Development Ordinance to this particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property by limiting the church to 32 square feet. The 32 square foot sign as required by the ordinance would result in it being overwhelmed by surrounding signage and swallowed up by the size of the parcel itself, defeating its purpose to identify the church and the on-site daycare center. 6, that the authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by granting of the variance, because allowing a sign in keeping with others in the area will provide appropriate identification of the church. The variance results in one less sign, which does not comply with the ordinance, and the size of the new sign is similar, actually smaller, than the existing one.
Second.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
A second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, nay? All in favor, aye. The motion to grant a variance request carries. Variance approved. Okay, so y'all are done. Thank you so very much. Y'all can stay if y'all like. I mean, we're more than appreciate that, audience. Next item on this evening's agenda is this guy. Excuse me. Okay, is appeal number BZA 2022-03. And this is a request for a variance from setback requirements for accessory buildings in residential district in table 3-8.1.1. The location is 1716 Raven Drive, tax map number 01501-05-009. Owner of record is Marina and Christopher Donaldson. Applicant is Christopher Donaldson. Zoning district is neighborhood conservation -15 in parentheses NC-15. The board will now hear from staff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Appreciate it. All right, so this is 1716 Raven Drive. It is to the south of Second Loop Road. It is within the Huntington Place subdivision, and is at 1716. It is currently zoned NC-15, and the future land use is also consistent with single-family homes. So the applicant would like to put a detached garage in the rear yard to be used for storage and also woodworking. And the code calls for a 10-foot setback from the rear and also a 10-foot setback from the side. So here is a site plan. This is what the applicant is proposing. He would like to put the garage 5 feet from the rear and 5 feet from the side. As you can see from the aerial, there's quite a few mature trees on the lot, and this mature willow oak is restricting the owner from putting the garage where he desires. Now, here's a rendering of the garage. It'll be about 13 feet high, and then 18 by 24, approximately 432 square feet. So Huntington Place does have some restrictions in place about setbacks for accessory buildings, that a 10-foot minimum is required from any interior lot. The city was made aware. The homeowner association president actually gave us a call and let us know, and we relayed that to the applicant, and as of now, the homeowners association has given permission for Mr. Donaldson to put the accessory building where he desires, 5 feet from the side property line and 5 feet from the rear. So here's some site photos. Here's the driveway, which is approximately 5 feet from the side. That's his desire, is to drop straight down the driveway into the garage. And here's the willow oak with the roots and trunk. So he wants to push it more northerly to avoid damage now or in the future from the tree. And here's some more photos. It looks like Mr. Donaldson has already done a little bit of tree removal and does desire to keep this willow oak tree. And you can also see that he does have some vegetation along the northern property line and the eastern property line to buffer it from neighbors. So the variance conditions, the owner would like to place the detached garage 5 feet from the side property line, 5 feet from the rear, to avoid conflict with a mature willow tree, the roots and the trunk. Strict adherence may require removal of the willow tree or root damage to the foundation in the future. The property does have a concentration of landscaping along the property line of the backyard, including shrubs along the backyard's northern and eastern property lines, which could help to mitigate the garage's placement from neighboring parcels. That there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property. The rear yard landscaping, including mature trees, is a limiting factor in the placement of the garage. The homeowner's driveway is currently 5 feet from the side property line, and he would like to continue that continuity of the driveway. The hardship is limited to this parcel because of the mature willow oak, and that because of these conditions, the application ordinance to this particular piece of property would prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. It will still be able to use it as a single-family home, but the desire to put the detached garage where he would like would be prohibited without the variance. And then finally, that this will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property owners. The detached garage will have minimal visual impact from Raven Drive due to the desired placement and also the vegetation on the north and east side of the parcel. And that does conclude staff's report.
Thank you, Derek. Are there any questions from members of the board for the city staff at this time?
Just the same as the last one. Was there any communication from adjacent property owners other than the homeowners association?
Right. I think that he got some calls, and that's how he was made aware. We put those yellow signs out, and they attract attention. But from speaking to the president of the HOA, Mr. Hicks, the neighborhood is on board and has given official approval for the placement of the garage.
Derek, I know you mentioned it. I heard it, but I just want to read it. He just said it, and HOA is on board with this.
They are on board. When we wrote the staff report, they had not issued anything, but now they have come to us and told us that Mr.
Did they
Donaldson
give you
has their
actually a
permission.
written letter, or does he have one for?
Through email. We did receive confirmation through a telephone call and email.
From Mr. Hicks with HOA?
Right,
Gotcha.
right. As far as anything more formal, we could ask the applicant if he got anything.
Would that be needed, something more formal?
I think in this instance, seeing the restriction and talking to the HOA president and the email as well as the phone calls would be sufficient.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions, everybody? All right. Thank you so much, Derek.
Thanks.
All right. Yes, the board will now hear from any applicant, or the applicant, Mr. Donaldson. How you doing? Mr. Donaldson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Let me swear you in. Do you promise the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so very much. You may continue with your presentation.
Okay. Yeah, Derek nailed it, knocked it out of the park. One other thing I just want to add to it, the 5-foot setback. We wanted to push it back a little bit so we could access the backyard with the trailer, because the other side has our HVAC and utilities. Low-hanging electric lines can't really use it to put an enclosed trailer. And I used one for work, and we'd like to maintain the access to the backyard. There's a little concrete pad, and it's going to have like a pergola landscaping around it. So we just want to be able to access the yard. Other than that, he nailed it. That was everything.
Thank you, Mr. Donaldson. Is there any questions from the board?
I have
for the
one question.
applicant?
You making these concessions for this one willow oak tree.
Yes, ma'am.
The roots of that tree, do they grow on top of the ground, or are they?
They're broad roots, and they're just below the surface. With the footing for the concrete pad, I didn't want to break into them and introduce disease. I'm already cutting down some like shrub oaks and.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about that tree.
Yeah.
Don't you think, in the future you're gonna have to cut it anyway, but you're making concessions for this, for your building. Are you sure you want to leave the building where it is, or you want to change the building?
It's
Is this
kind
where you want this building? You gotta think about it.
It is, yeah. It makes the most sense for the lot. I would use the other corner, but we can't access it. And there's also a equally as large oak tree over there. But yeah, it makes the most sense for the lot and to use the driveway to access the garage.
That's all.
Any other questions from the board for the applicant? I do have one question, Mr. Donaldson. The city said they haven't had any reports or anybody come in with the signs being out there, notifications. Have you had any neighbors?
I have not, and we actually didn't know we had restrictions in our HOA, and then we found out through that big yellow sign. But no one has come to me personally. The president and the board they've gone out multiple times to ask the neighbors. I want to say they've been asked 3 times, and nobody's objected.
Okay. Thank you so very much, Mr. Donaldson. Any other questions?
Yes, I've got additional questions. I was just reading through information that you submitted, and I just want to verify this, that other properties in the neighborhood, and you list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, have accessory buildings that are closer than the 10-foot setback?
So I don't know for sure. I didn't know this was as formal as it is when I submitted that. I thought it was kind of a general application and it was reviewed. So those buildings are similar to what I'm going for, and that's why I listed them. I don't actually know their setbacks though.
Oh, okay.
That's just the I guess the look where they look similar.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant? Okay. All right, there being no more questions, thank you so very much, Mr. Donaldson. The chair will now entertain a motion to either approve or deny the variance request from members of the board.
Move that we approve the request, and that the variance from the terms of this ordinance will not be contrary to the public interest, where owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions will, in an individual case, result in no unnecessary hardship. The owner would like to place the detached garage 5 feet from the side property line and 5 feet from the rear property line to avoid conflict with the mature willow tree's roots and trunk. Strict adherence to the ordinance. Removal of the mature willow tree or root damage to the detached garage foundation. That the spirit of the ordinance will be observed. Public safety secured. The applicant is proposing the structure to be 5 feet from the side and rear property lines to allow the preservation of a mature tree on the side. The property has a concentration of landscaping along the property line to the backyard, including shrubs along the backyard's northern and eastern property lines to mitigate the garage placement impact on neighboring parcels. That there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. The rear yard landscaping, including mature trees, limiting the placement of the garage in the owner's desired location. The homeowner's driveway is 5 foot from the side property line, and granting the variance would allow continuity of the driveway to the detached garage while preserving backyard space. 4, the hardship is limited to this parcel because of the presence of the mature willow oak. That because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. Strict adherence to the ordinance does allow use of the property as a single-family residence, but would limit the ability of the property owner to place the detached garage in the desired location of 5 foot from the side property line and 5 feet from the rear property line. That the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good. and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. The detached garage will have minimal visual impact from Raven Drive due to the desired placement, but the property owner to the north and east will be most affected by the close proximity of the detached garage to the property line. There is a row of mature trees and shrubs separating the neighbors to help mitigate negative impacts.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The yeas have it. The motion to grant this variance is approved. Thank you, sir. All right. There being, let's see if there's any other on the agenda. Apologies. Do we have, oh, gotcha. In here, there we go. Next item on tonight's agenda is the next meeting, next regular scheduled meeting, which will be April 28th, 2022. Correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. All right. There being no other items on this evening's agenda, is there anything that members of the board wish to bring forward or discuss while we are here tonight? There being none, I'd like to make it a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned.